Hello everyone, welcome to the KC Show. My name is Kenneth Cheng. So how should I put this? I've been thinking about this moment for quite a long time actually, about starting a weekly political podcast. And I wanted to take a few minutes to explain why am I doing this, because I am deadly serious about doing this and I wanted this to be long lasting. So I owe it to the audience, I owe it to any potential future viewers and listeners. An explanation why I wanted to build this, and in there I hope that they can understand bit by bit what I try to achieve, and hopefully from there we can learn something and build something together. So for starters, we live in a time where politics shapes everything: our economy, our climate, our rights, our future. But too often the way politics talked about right now, especially in Malaysia, feels like it's too dry, too disconnected, or too cynical. This current government, you feel that a lot of things couldn't be said out, and this government is perceived to be more progressive and more liberal. And also the way that how globally and locally politics and government and power are distributed are deeply unjust and inequitable. This we could see from the rise of right-wing leaders, and economy feels stagnant and standards of living are dropping. All these things that feels like, in particular my generation, the 90s generation, felt is something that we could not overcome. I also came across people who are more than often devoid of hope and felt like politics are working against them. So it is this cynicism that I wanted to change that drives me into this political podcast business. I'm also partly doing this because I believe we need a space where people in Malaysia can share and engage global and local politics in a progressive and democratic manner. There's no short of political podcasts in Malaysia, but too often those political podcasts does not serve up a certain kind of audience that yearns for democratic values, that yearns for progressive values, that is ready to defend a Malaysia that exercises free speech, that values human rights, that look after the poor. So these are the things that I would want to tackle. Ultimately, I also want a space that allows contrarians like me to have a voice, which makes you think and be even challenge what you thought you knew. So every week I'll be breaking down political stories, some from the fun pages, and others from the corners that get overlooked, be it from international, be it from local. I'll bring in context, of course, history, and most importantly, the opinions of my own, which I'm not afraid to share and defend. Too many political podcasts in Malaysia is basically regurgitating the news. I don't want to do something like that. I wanted to be able to share my opinion to you, look into your eyes and tell you that this is my values, and hopefully I could have supporters, I could have listeners ready to agree with me, and probably this is where I could look for like-minded travelers that will not just share our values together, but do something that is great. Alright? I hope you agree with what I have to say, but for those who does not agree, I also want you to have a say in this space too. Aside from the weekly KC show, there will be a book review podcast. So you've already seen the first episode of Read Baby Read. So I, along with my co-host Josh Ong, will be tackling some of the niche issues using books that we generally like, and we generally enjoy. But also more importantly, we wanted to promote the joy of reading. And also, I guess this podcast, this special episode of Read Baby Read also allow us to explore ideas that are more niche and which a weekly show could not ordinarily cover. So at last, I wanted this to be an enjoyable journey, but this journey will be more worthwhile if my opinion ever reaches out to different corners that I could not ordinarily reach. And so I hope this will fall on the ears or eyes of anyone who is yearning for a fairer and just society. I wanted to look for like-minded companions, and this is partly why I started this show. And so if you ever felt like this is something that you like, welcome to the KC Show, and let us get started.